What's going on, guys? Welcome back into the channel. In today's video, we're going to be talking about whether MLB The Show 23 is worth your money, whether it's a good game or not. There's quite a bit that we have to cover in today's video in terms of additions to the games and much of what has stayed the same. So let's just dive into it without further ado. The first thing that I want to talk about is the actual gameplay within MLB The Show 23. Prior years' games actually had me feeling like I just had a very bad inadequacy with my hand-eye coordination, especially when it came to batting at the plate. Realistically, that does not align with all of the other games that I play. It really didn't make a whole lot of sense that I struggled so much with hitting the ball when I was using zone hitting, and even more so when I used other hitting types. And ultimately what it comes down to is that the gameplay was not registering the at-bats the way that they should have been. And so the first thing that jumped out to me when I started playing MLB The Show 23 is that while it is still largely the same game in terms of how you control the players and how you operate an actual baseball game, you're going to feel much more satisfied with the way you're hitting the ball. When you place your bat on the ball, it's actually a satisfying outcome. When you actually place your bat in the correct location, and this is speaking largely from a zone hitting perspective, you're going to really see satisfaction come from those interactions. And so you really do need to take into account the improved gameplay, especially at the plate this year, because this now actually feels like a legitimate baseball game, whereas in prior years it felt like, oh, maybe you were placing your marker right here and the bat was swinging up here, or you were placing your marker here and the bat was swinging over here. And so that's not the case now. If you place your marker here, you're going to be hitting and swinging right here. And so if you put your marker on the ball, you're going to be making contact with the ball. In prior years, that wasn't necessarily the case. It was a very weird circumstance, an oddity, I would say, but it was consistent. And in the streams that I've done so far this year, everybody in the comment section has agreed that has played the game that hitting is much improved this year. One of the big changes to consider is that they've added actual aspects to the in-game presentation and everything, and so that's kind of a nice bridge here in the fact that they've added additional bat sounds. And there's some positive and some negative there. Some people have been saying they don't like the new bat sounds. Some people say they do like the new bat sounds. I'm kind of in the camp that I do like the new bat sounds. There's more variation between a lightly hit ball and a hard hit ball, and kind of just continuing on talking about how good the gameplay feels. Whenever I actually hit a ball really well, whenever I hit a home run, whenever I smack a baseball, it feels so freaking satisfying in MLB The Show 23. And so from a gameplay perspective, it's pretty much worth it to get this game. If you are looking for a game that's going to play better and play more like a real baseball game, in my opinion, this is going to be that case. And they did add other things to the presentation as well. One minor thing to talk about is the flyovers pre-game, some of the different cutscenes, some of the different things with the announcers. None of that is going to make a very big impact. I have noticed some small changes here and there that I actually really like in terms of the announcers making comments on things that make sense for them to be commenting on that I never heard them comment on before. Actually playing the game, you're probably going to have a lot of fun if you do enjoy the existing MLB experience. This is just a beefed up version of it, and that's what I really kind of want you guys to consider there, is that that's the main change to this game. There were changes made in other areas, and we'll get into that in a moment, but those changes don't really make as much of an impact as you will see in the actual gameplay. So then the other thing to kind of talk about there is, well, if you're not buying the game for the actual user-to-user gameplay experience or user-to-CPU gameplay experience, you're somebody that maybe sims through franchise mode and that type of stuff, you're probably less likely to have any, big impact from MLB The Show 22 to MLB The Show 23. And real quick, this is actually a really good time to just insert that I was fortunate enough to be provided a copy of this game by Sony Talent Partnerships, or San Diego Studios. So I want to thank them for providing this game. It's a review copy of the game, so don't let that color my opinion of the game itself. I want you guys to know that whether they had provided me a copy of this game or not, I was going to get this game and review this game for you, because it's a big part of my channel, and I would let you know truthfully whether this game sucks or not and whether it's good or not. So keep that in mind as I go through here. I was provided a copy of the game, but it's not going to change my opinion of it whatsoever. I'm going to tell you truthfully whether it's a pretty good game or whether it's just not worth your money or not. As far as the actual content of the game goes, and the ability to have multiple game modes to keep you interested for a long time in those various different aspects of the game that I've talked about for years and years and years, This is a really solid game, and this is probably one of the best sports game on the market, and the reason being is that they have multiple game modes that you can play single player or multiplayer. They have multiple modes that are going to keep you interested for a long time that have a lot of good content to them. They continue to have a very similar Road to the Show experience. While it's not perfect, they've made a couple of minor updates to Road to the Show, one of those being the new user interface, which is really just pretty much the same information, just reorganized, and you're seeing that here now on the screen. It is much easier to use this existing user interface, so certainly keep that in mind, but it's largely the same information, largely the same stuff. So you're going to get largely the same experience as you would have in MLB The Show 22 with your perks, with your attributes, all that different type of stuff. They said that they made a couple of adjustments to actual training, but so far I've still seen the little phone games in training in Road to the Show that some people complained about in prior years. So if you're expecting anything to have really changed in Road to the Show, that's just not the case. You're going to be having largely the same experience here. It's still a pretty in-depth and pretty fun experience, so I can't really take too much away from it. They could do quite a bit more, but it does continue to add pretty much the same value that it always has. Likewise with Diamond Dynasty, they added new content here. It's pretty much the same thing refreshed every year. One thing that I do say positively pretty much every year about Diamond Dynasty is that you don't have to spend money to be successful in this game mode. You can get a really good team by playing the game. You can earn stubs, you can earn rewards by playing Road to the Show. You can earn stubs and earn rewards by playing franchise, playing March to October, and those rewards will affect you in Diamond Dynasty. You will still see things connected between modes, like Road to the Show, for example. You can still get equipment in Diamond Dynasty that will help you in Road to the Show. So a lot of people do not like that connection between the game modes, but I like the fact that it is all still free if you just bought the base game. You don't have to do anything else. You will have success in these game modes. I have not spent any of my stubs that I got for pre-ordering the game, and I already almost have a full set of gold equipment for my user player in Road to the Show. I really didn't have to put in much effort at all to get those things, and I really haven't put much effort at all into Diamond Dynasty this year because I don't know that I'm going to be playing it too much. It does add quite a bit of value though, because there are multiple games within Diamond Dynasty that you can play that will keep you busy for a while outside of even just playing user-to-user games. And then you have March to October, which is kind of a new franchise experience within the past couple of years and adds value in and of itself. So that's 3 giant modes right there that are going to take up a lot of your time and provide a lot of replayability. And that's not even mentioning franchise mode, which is the main mode for most MLB The Show players and the way that most people want to play the game. One major knock that I have to give to the game this year is that franchise mode is still not online. You cannot play with your friends. And so I said it in my MLB The Show 22 review that if this game did not have the online franchise feature, it would be a huge knock to the game, and I might rate it as not worth buying. Well, I will say that they've made a couple of changes to the game, and those improvements to gameplay and batting have been so impressive to me, the difference between last year and this year, that's kind of washed that away a little bit. So I love the fact that they put effort into the game in very meaningful ways that I can tell as somebody that is not necessarily the most experienced MLB player in the world. But let's talk a little bit about the additions that they did put into franchise mode. So hopping into my Pirates franchise right here, they basically rebuffed the scouting system. It is largely the same scouting system. You can see the interface is a little bit different. You can interact with things in a little bit of a different way, from selecting positional needs and things like that to scouting specific players now, which you were worked a little bit different in previous ways, but you're going to still pretty much have the same information that you had before. From a scout's perspective, you're always going to have the same scouting attributes. So you have pitchers, position players, discovery, and efficiency, and they work the same way that they used to, outside of the new player interest mechanic, which is going to affect signing those draft picks after you scout them and draft them. That is going to be influenced by a scout's ratings as well. So it works slightly differently here, but it's pretty much the same because you're still going to get the prospect's potential range, overall range. The information is presented in a slightly different way, but it's kind of like a nice logical change to the way scouting works. It's an improvement to the existing scouting system is the way I would say it. It's not a totally revamped scouting system. It's not a perfect scouting system by any means, especially when you consider once you have all of your assignments set for the week, you actually can't see from, any point the entire scouting draft board. That's just not existent to you. And once you advance days, for example, you're never going to be able to scout in between days. So on every Sunday of every week, you're going to input your scouting objectives for that week, and then scouting will be completely locked in between Sundays. So one suggestion that I just put out there for them, if they're listening, is open up the scouting board so you can see the scouting board from the main menu of franchise at any point in any time. And once the draft has happened, open up the scouting board for the next season so you can start to get a look at some of the prospects and things of that nature. So it's not really implemented in a perfect way. It's a somewhat nice logical improvement to the scouting system. I've gone through it now a couple of times, and it really does not add a whole ton of value to franchise mode. So if you're expecting a buffed up, increased franchise experience, that's just not going to be it. It's going to be largely the same exact franchise experience that you've had in previous years. You can see that this franchise is in 2024, so I went all the way through the off season and into the second season, and there's really just nothing different. The way that you operate your team, the way that you execute trades, pretty much everything is going to be exactly the same in that regard. So ultimately, what does it boil down to? What is the most important thing to consider whenever you're considering buying MLB The Show 23 if you have not already? Well, number one, it is largely the same experience that you have had in prior years. For the most part, it's the same game modes, it's going to be the same content in those game modes, and it's going to be largely the same experience without any massive changes. The gameplay itself from the plate is going to be significantly improved. It is extremely satisfying to hit the ball this year, and you're probably going to find yourself going up in difficulties pretty quickly, because last year I would even struggle on Veteran and All-Star difficulty at times, and I am destroying teams on Veteran and All-Star this year. I'm probably going to be playing on the highest hitting difficulty because it feels like my hand-eye coordination is finally translating to the hitting mechanics within the game, as it should have been all along. However, they have still left off the one most important feature that everybody's been asking for in MLB for years now, since they removed it from the game years ago, and that is online franchise. All pretty much anybody wants to do is play MLB The Show with their friends, pick a team, build up that team, and compete with that team against an opponent and their friends who have picked a team, built up their own team in the way that they want, and want to compete with that team. That's really what we're looking for, is an online connected franchise mode. So that's going to give it a major knock, and that kind of is going to give you your answer right there, whether it's worth it for you to buy or not. For most franchise players, I would be honestly telling you, just probably wait until you could get this game on a discount. It's probably not worth the purchase. They really did not do enough to make it worthwhile from a franchise perspective. From a general gameplay perspective, if you're just looking for a good Road to the Show experience, Diamond Dynasty experience, head-to-head experience, yeah, you're probably going to have a really good time, especially with the new hitting mechanics, some of the new animations that they've added to the game, some of the new display things and presentation things. Those will look really good to you, and the gameplay is going to feel really smooth, and you're always going to get brand new Diamond Dynasty content every single year. It hasn't really changed a whole lot, so you know, those things do factor in there. So if you're one of those types of players that's just looking for the gameplay, you're probably going to have a really nice time, and you probably do want to pick up MLB The Show 23. And for those reasons, I can't really give this game a dedicated grade, because there are two different types of people that play this game, and probably even more than that. If you're a franchise person, this game is probably going to get an F, maybe a D, because the upgrades to scouting are somewhat nice. They're just not implemented as well as they should have been. And as I said, there's all those other points about online franchise. If you're somebody that's just here for the gameplay, for the other game modes like Diamond Dynasty, Road to the Show, online head-to-head, and those things, then this game probably gets something maybe in the high 80s, a high B, maybe a low A, that type of a grade. And so I guess maybe averaging them out, I would give the game an overall C grade. You know, kind of wait until you can get it on a discount. But again, there's two completely different sectors there that have to consider what's going on with this game. One sector is definitely going to want to buy the game, and one sector is probably not going to want to have the game at all, and probably going to want to stay to MLB The Show 22. So factor all those things in mind. If you have not purchased MLB The Show 23 yet, factor that into your decision. Hopefully I could have been of help in some way. If I was, leave a like on the video, subscribe below, and comment as well. Leave me a comment. Did you buy the game? What are your thoughts on the changes to the game? What are your thoughts on the hitting system specifically? Have you noticed that impact like I have in the game? Because for me, that's pretty important. So let me know all that feedback down below. As always, I hope you guys have a good one, and I'll see you in the next video.